Welcome to CIO Academy's Thought Leadership Interview Series, #Unplugged.
The topic for our discussion today is all about remodeling the digital game plan, optimizing your IT financial management strategy. And with us today in this edition of #Unplugged, we're going to do a virtual interview with two esteemed panelists. We have Glen Francis, Chief Technology Officer from Singapore Press Holdings, and Christopher Lindner, Chief Information Officer, Apptio, who's based in the US. My first question will be to you, Christopher. Tell us something more about your good work there at Apptio, Christopher.
Thank you. Good morning, Rama. I appreciate you having me. My name is Chris Lindner. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Apptio. My charter at Apptio is to deliver enterprise platforms that fuel Apptio's digital transformation and growth. About 1,000 people with pretty impressive growth plans over the next 3 years, looking to triple our employee base, 5 times our customer base, and quadruple all our revenue. So in this time with COVID, we're really focused on ensuring that the things that we do will allow us to continue down that trajectory and continue to position Optio, a strong Optio, as we come to crisis.
Thanks, Christopher. So, Glen, would you mind sharing a little bit more about your CTO role at SPH?
For my role at SPH, I look after a few things. Of course, the general IT. General IT is in enterprise IT as well as operations and infrastructure. But I also look after a portion of what we call digital. So digital components includes basically all our online sites because we are largely a media company, although we have diversified into other businesses, but media is still our core business, and media uses a lot of technology, most of which are digital in nature. So we have a lot of systems that we need to keep up and running on an ongoing basis, especially in this time, especially when people want to read about the news and about COVID. Right? So
that's right. Yeah,
it's important for us to ensure that our systems work well and people get the content they need.
So with the pandemic crisis, I do believe tech leaders all around the world are now reviewing their IT portfolio. And I think they've been asked to relook at their IT investments. Would you like to comment on this that's happening currently?
You know, what we're seeing is a vast majority of organizations have been asked to replan, and as much as between 10 and 30% of their budget is being asked to be given back to ensure the viability of their organization through the downturn. Really, in terms of actions taken by the IT leaders, they're really focused on kind of 4 key points. You know, the first being ensure resiliency and continuity, right? So we've got to make it through the downturn and come out the other side. So, you've seen an uplift video meetings and remote working. And so ensuring the platforms, the virtual private networks that all perform. The second is really in the replan, the digital transformation is, we need to go through scenario planning. So, what are the different scenarios that we need to plan for? What are the levers we can pull? And where are the tweaks and tunes that we need to make? A byproduct of the scenario planning then becomes cost optimization. So how do we look at our costs and ensure that when we do spend, it's spent on things that are material and drive value to the business, and we limit as much discretionary spending as we can possibly do during this time. And finally, and really the really fit organizations focus on this, which is let's get offensive, right? Let's play offense. Let's double down on our technology investments, and let's really create a competitive advantage coming out of this crisis. I have a real world example. A friend of mine is the CIO at Southwest Airlines, and they had a 3-year project to move their data center. As soon as COVID hit, they accelerated that project since they didn't have any travelers and their reservation systems weren't very taxed. So they're going to get a 3-year project done in 2 months. So that's the offense that I'm talking about, which is really doubling down. And so how do the organizations do this quickly? They need to have a practice like technology business management in place so that they can quickly identify the opportunities where there is material financial savings to be redirected and or saved without sacrificing strategic business outcomes, or when you have to sacrifice strategic business outcomes, you do that consciously because you've got full transparency to your budgets.
Thanks, Christopher. I think I really appreciate you sharing those 4 points, and probably during the conversation, we'll come back again to some of those points, especially the part on technology business management. So Glen, how has the COVID affected your current business and the processes that you have at SPH?
Largely, a lot of what Chris mentions resonates with us as well. If we look at pre-COVID, a lot of times especially CIOs, CTOs, will be looking a lot at innovations, transformation, and a lot of things that helps with change. But with COVID and during the COVID situation, we become a little bit more operational. Unfortunately, it has to be, because there's a lot of teething issues, as Bradley mentioned again, VPN problems that we face once in a while when the load goes up dramatically. So back to basics, in making sure that the operations run well, people get connected because they're all working from home now, and and a lot of times the teams might be new to this whole situation as well, because we might be prepared for a fraction of the workforce working from home. But when you have 100% working from home, or not 100%, maybe at least 80% working from home, it's a large load on our networks. So we have to anticipate a lot of issues that might come up, and quickly fix this as we go along. Even in terms of spending, some of the spend that we may need to do for the following FY, we are thinking of how we can bring this forward so that we can actually get things ramped up, especially in this time. So it's just I would say opportunities in times like this.
So Christopher, based on some of the things that Glen has just shared, as well as the experiences that you have, working and dealing with several other companies, do you think the existing IT systems are able to cope with the shifts that's taking place with the impact COVID has on the businesses, with all the organizations that you've come in contact with?
Yeah, so I mentioned a kind of buzzword earlier, which was fit organizations. And if you talk to Gartner, they assess that about 25% of organizations are really fit. Fit being defined as an organization that can go through a downturn and come out the other side without sacrificing revenue growth and or profitability. So as we look at fit organizations, they have some key characteristics around adaptability, agility, and alignment. And so if you think about adaptability, that's the ability to enter into a situation and or foresee a situation coming, and then begin your planning process and or replanning process. And one of the things that technology business management really enables companies to do is to plan in real time. And so fit organizations plan to replan. They plan to be able to react and be agile enough that when something changes around them, they can rebalance their portfolios, realign their spend, and move forward. That agility comes through having the appropriate level of tool and processes in place, and that's one of the key foundations of technology business management. If you talk to Gartner again, Gartner says by 2024, 70% of successful CIOs will have a system around IT financial management, and we hope it's based on technology business management, obviously, but you can't do that level of planning and replanning in spreadsheets, and you can't do that with disconnected and disparate systems. You have to be able to have that holistic view aligned to your business outcomes so that you can quickly identify opportunities. And that is the last kind of the alignment piece, which is, what the goals and the objectives of the business are, and you can ensure that the cuts you're making won't sacrifice the fundamental structural health of your business. So that's really what we're seeing. And that's exactly what Apptio did.
How can you avoid accumulating what they call this term, the technical debt, right? Is that something that you could share with us?
Sure. And again, what you have to have in place is systems and processes that expose that technical debt and make it very visible to the leadership so that you can have the relevant conversations around alignment and business outcome, and thus eliminate technical debt in an appropriate fashion. The time where you were able to walk in and say, I need to invest X million of dollars in it because it's all old and out of shape, that doesn't resonate with a business owner. So we need to be able to have those very transparent, data-centric conversations with our business that says these outcomes will be guaranteed and or much more readily as long as we don't carry kind of the burden of technical debt. And technology business management enables you with a way that takes the tech speak to translate that into the business speak, such that you can put the dots and draw the string from business outcomes to the technology foundations that drive them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Christopher. So Glenn, maybe you could explain to us what's going on with your review currently.
In some sense, as I mentioned, COVID is good and bad because I mean, most industries have been disrupted for a bit, even before COVID. But COVID accelerated a lot of the what's happening across the board. But it's also disrupted the disruptors, right? So every one of us are disrupted in a certain sense. And I think part and parcel, there are opportunities that we can take now to really step up our game as CIO CTOs in organizations. And what we have done in SPH, I think we have taken quite a lot of initiatives now to push things out a little faster, especially on the digital transformation part. One of the big initiatives, of course, that we have at hand is around data. We hold a lot of data. We collect data in the sense of the audience preferences in terms of reading and so on. We want to understand how we can serve them better. So that's something that we are still doing a lot, and we're still pushing out quite a fair bit. In terms of priorities, I think largely what Chris mentioned is accurate as well in terms of how we want to create. We ourselves need some transparency in terms of what we are spending on, and based on that transparency, it helps us then prioritize some of the key things that we need to push forward. We have a big focus as well on tech debt. So it's actually heavy lifting, especially if we don't have tools in place. If we use simple sheets to actually manage some of these things, it's heavy lifting. Trying to form the inventory and trying to figure out exactly what's ending and what needs to be fixed when takes a lot of effort, including sometimes trying to actually analyze the KPIs and the dashboards. If you don't have tools in place, it makes it very difficult again to monitor and access certain things.
In line with technology business management, can you tell us more about how with technology leaders now replanning their budgets, how should it be perceived? How should it be managed from a value perspective?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, Glenn made some great points, and Glenn, it sounds like you're practicing going on the offensive. CIOs really need to be able to sit down with their business stakeholders and show with full transparency where we're spending money and where that money aligns to the profits or the value of the business. And Glenn touched on it, which is what I need is a framework that shows me the map of spend and how it relates to the business outcome, which is value and or profit.
Would you like to say more about the kind of frameworks which technology leaders can use to help them with this whole reviewing of their budget and attaching values to what they are doing?
Sure. Yeah, the frameworks align very closely to kind of the extension of the services principles, right? Which is treating IT offerings as products. And so technology business management gives you a framework that says, how do I ingest financial data, map it against a common taxonomy? The Technology Business Management Council has done the work to define the data dictionary, so to speak, the taxonomy, and then allow you to take that taxonomy all the way from technical concepts to the business value concepts, such that we can map technology spend all the way from the bits and bytes, what I call the blinky lights of IT, right? Routers and switches and firewalls, all the way up to the outcome, which is a reader logs on to the website and is able to get that dynamic digital content that we want them to get, that's personalized, that allows them to learn more about COVID in their area and what's going on. And we can say what the cost of that thing was, and we can say by investing in that thing X% more, we could drive this much more revenue, and really enables the CIOs with that framework and a translation from tech speak to business speak.
So Glenn, does that make sense to you? Is that something that you are also trying to apply in terms of what you're trying to do now at SPH?
It's, as Chris rightly mentioned, it's a very useful way of classifying things. I mean, as a word he uses is taxonomy. With the taxonomy in place, it helps you to group items very nicely. And once you are able to then conceptualize where the items fit, you are able then to identify the financial components nicely into the stack that tech has managed. This helps us to then communicate more effectively with our stakeholders, right, in terms of whether to spend, not to spend, what are we spending on, so that transparency also gives and builds trust with our business users and our stakeholders. And this is important because we have to demystify the tech black box. Right? If we remain as a black box, then we'll be treated as a black box.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this very exciting interview with Christopher, who is based in the US right now, and of course, Glenn, with the exciting work that you're doing there at SPH. There'll be more exciting topics that ahead of us for #Unplugged. So stay tuned. Thank you very much, everyone.